This podcast is brought to you by the Senior Techie, a source of information for seniors and others about technology. Normally, we treat history like a dusty textbook, right? Like something fixed in the past. But what happens when history is breathing right next to us? Welcome to today's Deep Dive. Today, we're exploring a wealth of information regarding Vietnam War veterans.
Yeah, it's a subject that touches, well, so many families today, especially as those veterans and their spouses are really navigating their senior years.
Right, absolutely. And the Senior Techie says our mission today is really twofold. First, to uncover how the nation is honoring these veterans on National Vietnam War Veterans Day. But more importantly, we're going to highlight some crucial new healthcare and caregiver benefits available to senior veterans and their families right now.
Yeah, that first part, the National Day of Recognition, it marks the day in 1973 when the Military Assistance Command actually disbanded.
Well, 1973.
Right, and the last United States combat troops finally departed. It brings up a lot of reflection. Like, think about the Vietnam Veterans Memorial designed by Maya Lin.
Oh, the wall in D.C.?
Exactly. The names on that wall, they aren't listed alphabetically. They're chronological. So as you walk along it, you're literally walking through the unfolding human cost of the war over time.
That chronological design is just so powerful.
Yeah.
And the material itself, that reflective black granite, it acts like a physical bridge across time.
It really does.
When you stand there, it forces you, the observer, to see your own reflection superimposed directly over the names.
It permanently connects the living with the fallen.
Yeah, a profound physical connection.
And communities are creating literal connections right now, too. The Senior Techie says there are events happening nationwide to recognize this. Everything from free lunches to welcome home ceremonies.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and there are also commemorative lapel pins available. And this isn't just for combat veterans, it's for anyone who served between the fall of 1955 and the spring of 1975, as well as their surviving spouses and families.
Those lapel pins and welcome home ceremonies, they provide such vital emotional closure. But let's be real for a second. Emotional closure doesn't pay for nursing home care, right?
No, it certainly does not.
And it doesn't help a spouse manage daily medications either. Aging veterans and their caregivers need tangible, daily support 24/7.
Spot on. That is where the practical side really comes in. We're looking at the newly released 2025 to 2026 Veterans Benefits Manual from the National Veterans Legal Services Program.
Okay, the benefits manual.
Right, and there are massive updates here for seniors, specifically regarding new Veterans Affairs presumptions for burn pit exposure and the rollout of the Elizabeth Dole Act.
Okay, wait, let's unpack that, because words like presumptions and acts, they sound like just bureaucratic jargon to me. How do these things actually work for people?
Right, totally fair. Let's start with VA presumptions. Normally, a veteran has to prove their current illness is directly tied to a specific incident during their service.
Which sounds incredibly difficult years later.
Oh, it's a massive burden of proof. So a presumption flips that script entirely. If you served in a specific area with burn pits and you now have a condition like, say, asthma, the VA legally presumes the connection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you don't have to prove the link anymore.
That removes a huge roadblock for getting care. So what about the Elizabeth Dole Act then?
That one fundamentally changes how caregivers are supported. It expands community care programs so veterans can get help closer to home, instead of traveling to distant VA facilities.
That's a huge relief for seniors, definitely.
Yes, and it drastically improves provisions for nursing home care, and it actually expands support programs directly for the family members who are doing that 24/7 caregiving.
Wait, let me push back on this manual itself, though. You're talking about a massive federal legal manual.
Yeah, it's quite thick.
Right. So if I'm a caregiver working a full-time job and looking after a veteran, a giant book of regulations is the absolute last thing I have the energy to read. Is this actually practical for them, or is this really just for lawyers?
I hear you. And, well, that is the reality for so many caregivers. They're just completely overwhelmed. But here's why the manual matters. It isn't meant to be light reading for the family.
Okay.
It's the precise roadmap that veterans advocates and service officers use to fight for you. It outlines the very steps to secure higher disability ratings. It even shows how to claim benefits for secondary issues.
What do you mean by secondary issues?
Well, for example, if a veteran takes medication for a service-connected injury, and that medication causes a new health problem, like a stomach issue.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
This manual shows your advocate how to get that secondary issue covered, too.
Okay, I get it now. So it takes the guesswork out, and gives your advocate the ammunition they need to get the benefits you've actually earned.
Precisely.
Securing that physical and financial health is clearly vital. But, as this generation ages, making sure their personal history survives feels equally urgent to me.
Oh, it's an absolute race against time. The firsthand history of that era is living in the memories of our seniors right now.
Right.
Once those voices are gone, the history just goes with them.
Well, the senior techie says the Texas Tech Oral History Project is actively collecting recorded interviews to preserve this legacy. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. I noticed the project explicitly invites anti-war protesters to participate alongside the veterans and allies.
Yes, they do.
Why include the protesters in a historical project like this?
Because the project has no political agenda whatsoever. The goal is an authentic 360-degree record of the era.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the only way to capture the full, complex reality of what the nation went through is by collecting stories from all sides. Veterans, protesters, government workers, families. It builds a complete historical picture without taking sides.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Think about your own family. Whether you're a veteran, a caregiver, or just a family member, what untold story is someone in your life carrying right now?
That's a really great question.
What piece of history might be lost forever if you don't sit down and ask them to share it today? When you look into that mirror of history, make sure you capture the reflection before it fades. This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to receive their free newsletters, you can subscribe by going to subscribe.theseniortechie.com.